Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Ivy English. I'm Bruce.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today, we have a long reading and a few questions based on it as well. The title is a little sad. The world's loneliest whale dies.
It's not just the title that's sad, I just want to point out.
Yeah, 好，今天这故事蛮可怜的哈。不过我们的标题是世上最孤独的鲸鱼离世。
All right, I'll read through the entire article first, and then, of course, we will have a few questions based on the article. Please listen carefully. Kiska, an orca dubbed the loneliest whale in the world by some animal rights groups, recently passed away at the approximate age of 47 due to a bacterial infection. The killer whale was captured near Iceland in the North Atlantic Ocean in 1979. She was then moved to Marineland, a zoo and amusement park in Niagara Falls, Canada, where she would spend the rest of her life. Kiska lived a hard life in captivity. The unusual title given to her came from the fact that she had been living in a pool by herself for more than a decade. The last time she was in the company of another orca was in 2011, when her tank mate, an orca named Ikaika, was transferred to an amusement park in the U.S. In addition to her more than 10 years of solitude, Kiska experienced the deaths of all 5 of her calves. Before her death, visitors to Marineland reported that Kiska would often float listlessly in her pool and sometimes slam her head against the tank. In 2019, the Canadian government passed a law making it illegal to import or keep killer whales captive. Kiska was the last orca held in captivity in Canada. In all likelihood, Kiska would be the final killer whale ever held in captivity in Canada. According to the Whale and Dolphin Conservation, however, an estimated 55 orcas are still being held in captivity in marine parks around the world as of January of 2023.
So, Kiska is an orca dubbed the loneliest whale in the world. If you're dubbed something, it means that this is a title of yours, but it's not an official title. If you're dubbed, it's like sort of an unofficial thing.
Nickname.
So you're nicknamed. What a nickname, man. The loneliest whale in the world. But they were dubbed this by some animal rights groups who are trying to bring attention to Kiska's problem. And so actually she recently passed away. She died. Passed away is the nice way of saying died, because just like in Chinese culture it's not really okay to talk about death, we also in Western culture don't like to talk about death directly, especially in words, so we like to say passed away instead of died. So she recently passed away at the approximate age of 47. So she was about 47, and the death was due to a bacterial infection.
好，我们看到这个地方 Kiska， 然后后面一个同位语告诉你说它是一个 orca 就是这个虎鲸。 Dub 这个是通常是 nickname 的意思，给它取个绰号，但在这里呢其实不是绰号，而是怎么样 to give a name to 这个 dub 的意思，所以它被人家给了一个名字。那这个名字其实蛮可怜的，你看到它这个名字怎么样，是Dub the loneliest whale in the world， 世界上最孤独的鲸鱼。是谁给他这个名称呢？ By 是一些 animal rights groups， 就是动物权利的组织给了他这个名字。那这整个是一个同位语。好，所以 Kiska 它是一只动物权利组织给他一个名字叫做世界上最孤独的鲸鱼，它是这样的一只鲸鱼。它怎么样呢？ Recently 最近 passed away 就是逝世。好， passed away 也是一样，在英文里面呢就是用去世或者逝世的意思，也就是它不直接讲死，那可以说比较尊敬一点或者比较这个委婉一点的说法。那它什么时候过世的呢？是 at the approximate age of 47。好，所以大约是在47岁的时候。at 因为后面接就是47是一个数字，所以是用 at。好，那这个大约可能是因为虎鲸实际的年龄，好，我们只能用推测的，没有办法真的知道，因为他出生的时候不会有出生登记。 然后呢 due to 是因为，他为什么死的呢？因为有一个 bacterial 就是细菌的形容词，细菌的 infection 感染，所以他是因为细菌感染而死亡的。
The killer whale was captured near Iceland in the North Atlantic Ocean in 1979. Here we're using a kind of formal the killer whale instead of saying Kiska again, was captured or caught near Iceland in the North Atlantic Ocean. Iceland is well named. It is a medium-sized group of islands about as far away from other countries as you can possibly get. It's very, very far north in the North Atlantic Ocean, and that was 1979, so 21, over 40 years ago.
Yeah. 好，所以这一只这个 killer whale 就是虎鲸，这换个方法说，它是被捕捉 captured 就是捕捉，这个 CAP 这个字首就是或者这个字根啊，就是 take 的意思。它被抓住了，是在这个冰岛附近被抓住的，是在北大西洋的冰岛附近被抓住的，而且是1979年就被捕获了。
So she was then moved to Marineland, a zoo and an amusement park in Niagara Falls, Canada, where she would spend the rest of her miserable life.
Yeah, 然后呢，她被捕捉之后，被捕了之后，被抓到之后呢 ，she was then 之后就被 moved to 被移到 Marineland 这个地方。那这个地方是什么呢？它是个同位语，告诉你它是一个 zoo and amusement park， 它是个动物园，也是一个游乐园 amusement park。这个位置是在哪里呢？在这个加拿大的尼加拉瓜瀑布附近。Where 就是指她在这个地方呢 ，she would spend the rest of her life， 她在这里度过余生。这个真的蛮悲惨的，我想没有人想成为这只鲸鱼。
Notice Niagara Falls, Canada. Niagara Falls is right on the border between the U.S., New York State, and Ontario, the province in Canada. And it's sort of a double falls. One part, the less attractive part, belongs to New York. And the perfect hemispheric shape of the other part of Niagara Falls is what you can see on the Ontario side.
Thus ensuring a continuous stream of American tourists to Canada.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah, 所以大家都知道尼加拉瓜大瀑布这个非常壮观。那 Bruce 解释说，它其实有一半在美国，有一半在加拿大。不过在美国的那一半比较没有那么漂亮，就比较漂亮的那一段呢是在加拿大。好，所以 Angela 老师就说，所以呢，这个很多美国人就会这个变成观光客，到加拿大那一边看这个很漂亮的这个尼加拉瓜大瀑布。
Okay, the second paragraph now. Kiska lived a hard life in captivity. And of course, Angela just mentioned that. She had a hard life. It was a miserable life, a life of misery, M-I-S-E-R-Y. Anyone who has to live in captivity, if they're a social animal, and yes, people are social animals, living alone by yourself for very long periods of time, you are captive. In the case of people, some are put into jail, and they may see other people in the jail, but they're not free to live the way they want to. And this is true of most animals in zoos. They live in captivity. They are captured and then put into a cell or a cage.Yeah,
尤其各位可以想象，那虎鲸它在大海里面游泳多么的快乐，那大海那么大的大海，然后你把它抓了，然后放到一个动物园里面去，那一定很难过的。所以它怎么样 ？Live a hard life， 它活得很辛苦。那 in captivity 就是在被囚禁的状态之下。那 captivity 跟我们刚看到 capture 它的字根都一样，那个 cap 就是 take 的意思。好，所以它被抓起来了，那这活得很辛苦。
The unusual title given to her that we saw in the first line of the story, the loneliest whale in the world, this title came from the fact that she had been living in a pool by herself for more than a decade. So whales, just like people, are social animals. If you put a human being in a pool where they could see no other human beings or no other nothings for 10 years, they would go crazy. People go crazy in far less time than that in solitary confinement in jails.
Yeah.所以这个 unusual 很不寻常的 title given to her 就是给她的这个很不寻常的这个名字呢，就是我们刚刚讲的世界上最孤独的鲸鱼。这个名称是来自于一个事实 came from the fact that 这个事实就是说 she had been living in a pool 她活在一个水池里面，从大海被搬到水池，而且是 by herself 就只有她自己而已 for more than a decade， 超过10年。那其实虎鲸也是群居动物的，这个你在动物影片里面常常看到，他们会一起捕猎，那通常都是一群一群的。那他们是群居动物，那你把它抓，它只有一只，让它过了10年，这个非常非常难过，而且我们等一下会看到，它最后就几乎就是不想活了那种感觉。
The last time she was in the company of another orca, the last time that Kiska had company where she was being kept, was in 2011, that's 12 years ago, when her tank mate, first time I've seen that word, the other living creature, the other orca that she had been living with, that orca was named, I'm not sure if this is Ikaika, whatever, was transferred to an amusement park in the U.S. So she did have a partner for a while, but that other orca was transferred. She was moved to an amusement park in the U.S., so they were separated.
Yeah, 所以 the last time, 最后一次 she was in the company of another orca. In the company of 就是有谁陪伴的意思。The company 就是 the fact of being with someone， 这个就是怎么样 company 的意思。好，所以他上一次有人陪伴，有鲸鱼陪伴。他上一次跟另外一只鲸鱼在一起的时候呢，是2011年。那这个时候呢，在当年呢，他的 tank mate， 他水族箱的这个同伴呢，是同位语，告诉你是一只虎鲸，名字叫做大概是伊开卡，大概是他被怎么样？另外这只同伴呢，在2011年，本来2个只是在一起的，可是2011年呢，另外这一只 was transferred， 被移送前往 transfer 就是 to move from one place to another， 被移到一个美国的 amusement park， 一个这个游乐园去了。那我只希望这个伊开卡不是到那边不是也只有他一只，好了，不然就很可怜啊。2只本来在一起的，现在你一只搬到另外一个地方去，那2只都独自过活啊，那会让人觉得很难过。
In addition to her more than 10 years of solitude, Kiska experienced the death of all 5 of her calves. Calves is what you call baby whales. So not only was she alone all the time, all of her babies died. Gosh.
Yeah, 那他说除了他 more than 10 years of solitude, solitude 就是孤独，他除了独自过了10年的孤独生活之外呢，他还经历了 the deaths of 就死亡。什么死亡呢？他生下来的5只幼鲸通通死掉了，而且他这个 lived through it， 他真的就是 lived through it， 就感觉就是他经历了这件事情。Calves 就是幼鲸，或者像 cows also, no, little cows you also call it calf, right?
No, calf is a baby from the cow or from a large animal.
Yeah, 所以这个小牛也是 calves， 那这个鲸鱼也是 calves， 小鲸鱼。
Right, and the singular is C-A-L-F, one calf, 2 calves. Before her death, visitors to Marineland reported that Kiska would often float listlessly in her pool and sometimes slam her head against the tank. So this is a sign that she could not bear this type of misery. To float, so she wasn't trying to swim.And these animals have lots of fat, so they can float quite easily. But here, it's not a good thing. She had no interest in swimming or moving or looking around her environment. That's never good. Listlessly is without any energy at all, almost playing dead.
Yeah, it's a sign of depression, right?
Absolutely.
这真的是沮丧的这个征兆
Yeah.And besides this floating, she sometimes slam is to hit very, very hard, to slam her head against the tank, which would either be made of metal or concrete. Not a good thing to slam your head against.
好，所以在她死亡之前呢 ，visitors to Marineland 就是到 Marineland 去的游客或者去参观她的人呢 ，reported that 他们会这个报告或他们会说，所以我这些游客可能也看出来这只鲸鱼不快乐。所以就会跟这个园方讲，或者可能跟这个媒体讲。好，所以这些游客说呢，这 Kiska 他会常常会 float， 就是漂浮。那 listlessly 就是无精打采的 in her pool， 在他的这个水池里面呢，他就飘在那边，就不想游泳了。所以我们刚刚讲这个，显然他很难过，他大概不想活了，连游泳都懒得游了。那 listlessly 就是我们讲无精打采的。好，那这个他的形容词 listless， 你如果要记一个同义字的话，有一个比较难一点的叫 lethargic。 Lethargic 啊，这是无精打采的。那无精打采，如果说你要用英文来形容什么叫做无精打采的话，你可以说 lacking energy， 它就缺乏能量，缺乏这个精力，或者 disinclined to move or do something。 disinclined 就不想 D-I-S-I-N-C-L-I-N-E-D disinclined to， 例如说 to exert effort， 这是比较正式的英文 E-X-E-R-T effort 就是努力，所以他不太想努力的，他也没什么精力 lacking energy or disinclined to exert effort， 这个就是 listless 的意思。所以他无精打采在他的这个水池里面飘着。那有的时候呢，我觉得这几乎是自杀的状况了。 Slam her head against the tank。 Slam 就是像刚刚 Bruce 老师讲，他就 to hit or strike with great force， 大力的去撞去击打。那 against 就是这个对着这个 tank， 对着他的水族箱去击打去冲撞。那水族箱可能不是，要么就是水泥，要么就是金属，也可能是这种强化玻璃，但总之他这样去撞，对他当然健康一定会有影响的。
So in 2019, the Canadian government passed a law making it illegal, making it against the law to import, to bring into Canada, or to keep killer whales captive. So you can't bring them into Canada, and you can't keep them in Canada, and you can't keep them in jail, captive.
That's an important distinction because there are orcas off the coast, especially the Atlantic coast of Canada. Canada has a very long North Atlantic coastline. There are orcas there, so this law was well written.
Yeah， 所以这个法律这个非常棒，很好。因为加拿大其实它的海岸边有很多的这个虎鲸的，所以它就立法说，你不可以进口虎鲸，也不可以在加拿大养虎鲸，或者把虎鲸圈养起来。所以这里讲说，2019年的时候，加拿大政府他们通过了一个法律 ，making it illegal to do something， 就是这个 it 就是指后面那个 to 那个不定式片语，就是让这个不定式片语这件事情变得是非法的。那为什么要用 it 来代替呢？因为这样子的话，这个句子就不会头重脚轻。你如果说 making to import or keep killer whales captive illegal 的听起来这个非常不顺耳就前面太重了，所以呢，他用 it 来代替，然后把 to 这个不定式片语放到后面去，所以 making it illegal to do something， 各位就把这个语块记起来就好了。所以他们把这件事情让它成为非法的。什么事情呢？就是 to import 进口，或者是 keep killer whales captive， keep something 或者 keep somebody captive， 就是把它关起来，把它圈养起来。所以加拿大现在呢，立法禁止你进口虎鲸，也不准你私人不管是私人或者公家，反正不能养虎鲸，不能把虎鲸圈养起来。
Kiska was the last orca held in captivity in Canada.So as sad as this story is, at least we now know that this could never happen again to a different orca.
Yeah, 好，所以 Kiska 它是最后一只虎鲸 held in captivity， 就是被圈养的最后一只虎鲸，至少在加拿大是这样子。
In all likelihood, so it's the most likely outcome that Kiska would be the final killer whale ever held in captivity in Canada. Make it so.
Yeah.In all likelihood， 各位可以把它学起来，就是 with considerable certainty， 就我们可以相当确定的 without much doubt， 就是 in all likelihood， 就很可能我们大家可以这样子想，我们大家可以这样确定，因为已经立法了嘛，所以呢 Kiska 很可能是最后一只虎鲸 ever held in captivity in Canada， 就是曾经在加拿大被圈养的最后一只虎鲸。所以他的故事虽然让我们觉得很可怜，但至少这个也让大家重视到这个问题。那加拿大政府也通过了这个法令，所以他很可能就是最后一只在加拿大被圈养的虎鲸。
According to the Whale and Dolphin Conservation, however, an estimated 55 orcas are still being held in captivity in marine parks around the world as of January of 2023. So there's a whale and dolphin conservation. This is a group of people who are trying to protect whales and dolphins. 海豚, 是不是?
Yeah, 海豚, yeah.
For dolphins. According to them, about 55 orcas around the world are still being held in amusement parks and such places. We can call them marine parks because they deal with mostly sea animals as of the beginning of this year.
好，所以根据这个组织鲸鱼与海豚保护协会，根据这个组织的资料呢 ，an estimated 55 orcas， 这个 an estimated 后面会加一个数字，表示 估计有这样的一个数字，所以 an estimated 55 orcas 就是据估计大概是有55只有这样的一个数字的这个虎鲸呢 are still 仍然被 being held in captivity 仍然被监禁啊，当然我们这圈养，但他们其实是被关起来的，没有办法回到大海去自由的游泳。那被关在哪里呢？在这个 marine parks 就是海洋公园好 around the world。 那 as of 就是截至2023年的1月为止呢，全世界大概还有55只的这个虎鲸呢被圈养在这个 amusement parks 或者是 marine parks 里面。好，那这个是现在的状况。
Okay, we have a few questions for you based on today's lesson. Number 1, why was Kiska given the title The Loneliest Whale in the World?
好，为什么 Kiska 被赋予了世上最孤独的鲸鱼这样的称号呢？
Our story tells us the answer is C. She had lived alone for over 10 years.
好，答案是 C. 好，她独自生活了这个10多年。
And number 2, which of the following is not true about Kiska?
关于 Kiska 的叙述，以下哪项是不正确的？
The answer is D. She was transferred to another amusement park in 2011. That was not true.
好，答案是 D， 因为 D 说他在2011年被送往另外一个游乐园，不是他，是他的同伴被送到另外一个游乐园，所以这个答案是错误的，因此它是正确答案，也就是说这个答案讲的事实是错的，所以它是正确答案。
Number 3, our final question. Why will Kiska likely be the last ever orca captive in Canada?
好，为什么 Kiska 可能会成为加拿大有史以来最后一只被圈养的虎鲸呢？
Because B, the government passed a bill banning captive orcas.
答案是 B， 因为政府通过了一项禁止圈养虎鲸的法案。
Okay, that's it for today's lesson, and for the three of us for the month of July. We'll be back next month to torture you. Until then,
Bye-bye.